Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for, let's see, the 29th day of March 2021. Well, I guess when we meet again on Thursday, we'll be in April. That'll be April 1st, so it's kind of cool to be in 1 month for one of the readings, and then the one to finish out is in a new month, so I like patterns. I don't know. To me, they all have meaning. So I wish the weather here would figure it out, though, because we woke up to snow. It's just a dusting, though, fortunately. It was pretty cold last night, though. And we had winds, big, big winds, and I wasn't even sure I was going to sleep. I don't sleep when it's really windy at night. But I did, and so it must have calmed down. But it was it got really windy early afternoon yesterday, and I think we had, I don't even know, I think we had it was like 25-mile-an-hour winds, and then the gusts were much bigger, I guess. I looked out and there was some limbs down, so my husband's going to have to go out and deal with all of that here while he deals with the chickens. Has to make sure they're okay, and so this has just been... you think winter's over with, but it's the high desert. So, we're at about 3,000 feet above sea level. So, sometimes around here in Central Oregon, the joke is there's 2 seasons, winter and August. 3 if you add fire season in. So. I guess they had to evacuate parts of Deschutes River Woods yesterday because of a fire. They even gave him a go now evacuation order. So I did, and I saw that on my Feedly. I use a news reader to look at a different sites and whatnot, and for my news. And I saw that there, and I'm like, oh no, that area is just there's no. I mean, it's all woods, So if you got a fire in there, that's really serious. So. I hope everybody's okay, and I hope no one lost anything. Because around here, when the winds are big, it can really, things move fast. So, anyway, we're not in a overly treed area. We have pasture and everything, and so but we have trees on our property. We just we're not in the woods, so we're kind of lucky there. But we have our own issues, so... like the snow that's out there. Oh my God. Anyway, well, I think that's enough shuffling. Let's go ahead and take the rune for today. The esoteric influences are up, by the way, both in blog form and video form on the blog. I cross-post over there to Patreon if you want to join me over there. It costs $1 a month to do that. But you don't have to join every single month. If you want to do for the whole year, that's $12, but you don't have to. You can just pick and choose, what you want to see. But, I'll show you. Kenaz. I was like, oh, I took it and I put it down. So, oh my goodness. Yeah, I was doing the raspberries. I was cutting raspberry canes yesterday morning. Finished that, so I'm happy about that. So all that dead stuff's out of there, and they're very tall, and oh my God. The raspberries are so good. Anyway, we have Kenaz. I'm sitting here talking about raspberries. We have Kenaz, which is the torch or the light of spirit, informing. It's illumination, it's clarity, it's intuition. But basically, it kind of looks like a little flashlight with the light going outward. Kenaz is in a lot of the different runes. If you look and you break down visually what the runes look like, you can see a lot of other runes within them, depending on what it is. But one in particular, Othala, is just all Kenaz. Because you've got Ingus on the top, and if you draw it as a diamond, even if you don't, if you do it as 2 X's, you've still got Kenaz in all directions. This way you've got it going inward, and then down on the bottom you have an X, which is Kenaz in all directions. So it's both inward and outward in terms of who we are as spirit, as source presence, focused into form. We're just all light, expressed both inward and outward. So you can really, if you sit and you look at some of these runes, you can see the other runes within them, and you can kind of get an idea of what they mean just by looking at that. Which I think, again, patterns, I think is interesting. So let's see what we have here. Oh, we have, oh, no, we don't. We have, oh, I think it's a missio. You've got a missio, which is loss, and acquisitio, which is gain. Let's see, there's acquisitio. Where's it? A missio. I know that's one of the ones in this week's, oh, there it is. In this week's Esoteric Influences. I think a missio's on Thursday, maybe? I think. Anyway, we have, this is what it looks like. Single dot for fire, a dual dot for air, a single for water, and a dual for earth. So active influences on fire and water. And then we also have passive influences on air and earth. So this is about loss, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative in terms of, hurt feelings or, because you experience loss, emotional loss of some kind. Things that bring up, it could be the loss of a problem, the ending of a problem, in other words. So that could be a good thing. So perhaps when we look at Kenaz, we're looking at the light of spirit affecting our perceptions. And with a missio, maybe we're letting go of things that no longer serve. So you see how those two can work together. But let's go ahead and we'll take our cards and we'll see what they have to say. We'll start with that, though. I don't know how this keeps happening, but my cloth keeps getting pushed up. It's probably where I'm sitting. Maybe I need to come closer. I don't know. All I know is it snowed. I'm not a bit happy about it. I took my clary sage out to the greenhouse yesterday, and so I'm hoping that they did okay, because I'm sure it was, probably in the high 20s last night. But there's no heat in the greenhouse, so I don't know. We'll see. But I took them out there, and even if they get a little burnt from the frost or from the cold, I should say, even if they get a little affected, it's okay, because the root systems are good on them, and I probably need to go out and water them though today, so we'll do that and check on them and make sure they're okay. Oh, they've just done so well inside the house, but it's time to move things around, because we have to put the peppers in bigger pots, 1 gallons now. It's time to transfer those, and I don't know if I have all of the I don't know if he planted all of the tomatoes that we need. I don't know. Maybe he did. I don't know. Well, you know what? These look like last week's cards. I'm going to shuffle just a little bit more. It's Monday, so I don't shuffle well. I also got the herb garden basically weed-eated down as much as I could till I ran out of weed-eating line. And so we went and did our shopping last night at Walmart, but they don't have the size of weed eater line we want, or the quantity, I should say. So we didn't get any. We have to go somewhere else for that. Instead, there were a bunch of people in there without any masks at all, so they must have taken them off when they came in. And there was even a guy who was open carrying a pistol on a sidearm on him. Yeah, that was fun. We'll try the cards again. There we go. I got 2 cards from Thursday, so I don't really see the point in sticking with that particular one. We'll just try another one. Here we have the 7, leveling the playing field. Can also mean theft of intellectual property. But realistically, it's about strategy and coming to balance and leveling the playing field. We'll talk about that more in detail here in a minute. With that mouse, put that there. We have the Queen of Pentacles, which I just basically interpret this as serenity, but it depends on I suppose it depends on how much wealth you have as to how much serenity you have in your life. Here we have the Devil. The 15th card of the Major Arcana. This is going to be a 6 energy, so this is higher self. You can see You know what? Let me see if I can find it really quickly. If I can't, I'm not going to waste any time. But I tell you guys this all the time when I pull this card. The Devil card is an as above, so below card, and it's very similar in terms of the positioning of the hands of the Magician. Oh, here we go. And I'll show you what I mean by that. My card's over there. But you see, the hand positions are the same, aren't they? Only the difference here is that the devil is holding a torch in his left hand down towards spirit. In your left hand, that's going to be your receptive side, and the earth is considered a receptive presence. So you see the correspondence there. But here, with the Magician, you begin with the Fool, who takes the leap of faith into form with his or her theme. We don't know what he is, if he's going to be a man or a woman, a boy or a girl. We don't know that when he takes his leap. Only he does, maybe. I don't know. I always call him a he, but because it looks like a boy, but it's actually an androgynous individual where we don't know yet the gender. And so then coming into form, we have the Magician and the High Priestess, all right, that take care of all of that. But the Magician brings in all the elemental qualities to the form and what the life is going to look like and all of that. And then the High Priestess deals with the subconscious aspect of self. So you've got the physical and the subconscious, and together they create the person. Well, so you have here with the Magician, now you see him holding a scroll, if you will, toward the Creator, toward heaven. And so the creation is very different, isn't it? Here you have the creation that's filled with abundance. Here you have the creation that's filled with the ego. So this is spirit and this is ego. So you can see the difference between the two. And the Magician is holding the scroll, if you will, in his power hand, in his right hand. So that's his projective hand. I'm going to put that somewhere in the middle of the deck in case we have to take a fourth card here. But we're going to use the Devil today as a significator for this. We have, let's see, 6 and 7 is what? What did I say 15? Yeah, so 6 and 7 is 13. Is that right? Yeah. 6 and 7 is 13, so that's 4. So that's foundation and structure. So who we are, where are we going to place our focus, basically. And here, unfortunately, with the Queen of Pentacles, she's very, very focused on her own stuff, her own wealth. I mean, in a way, when all things are right, then you can have some serenity in your life. But, she's really in her own element here. And although she's kind and compassionate and benevolent and all of that, there still is the focus on the money that you see, on the coin. So she's focused on her own abundance. She's really in her own place there. She's not thinking about other people necessarily, although we don't really know that for certain. She could be considering, all the things that her husband won't consider. But when you look at the King of Pentacles, now you're seeing his back to the kingdom. And so these people really are in their own element. They have their wealth, they have their abundance, and that's really what they're focused on. Whether or not they choose to share that abundance, it just reminds me of the idea of thinking that that's ever going to happen, which it's not going to, right? It's like in the early 80s when Reagan coined trickle-down economics. It's like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Do you honestly think that if we burden everybody else and take the burden off the rich people, that all their money's going to trickle down to the rest of us? I mean, does that even remotely sound possible or doable or conceivable? It's not. They laughed at all of us because they had the power to do it, right? They had the votes, they had the power, right? And so that was the con. I mean, there were cons that began before that, right? But, and she seems very immersed in the whole concept of it, as far as I'm concerned. But only because the Devil card is here. If we had it a little bit different way, if this was a different card, I might be looking at her a little bit more compassionately, a little more benevolently than what I'm doing. But here we're talking about ego. We see the devil perched upon his little stump there, with a ring attached to it, a little post with a ring. You see chains extending from that ring that encircle, that then are tied to the necks of each individual down below. You see the little oak leaf on his tail there, and you see the pomegranate there. I believe that's a pomegranate. He's sitting up there perched, again, the as above, so below, and it's really about the below, the ego part of life, not the spirit part of life. Although he's giving acknowledgement to it by raising his right hand to spirit. You see the inverted pentagram here, which does not mean Satanism, by the way, or the devil. What it means is the focus. The point is focused toward form and focused on ego. If it were turned the other way, then you're looking at a focus on spirit. So now I need to take a drink of tea if I can. I don't know, it's still pretty hot. But spending so much time outside that I did yesterday, I'm all, the pollen's really high, so my allergies are up. I need to take some nettle tincture, and that'll clear it up. Here we have the Seven of Swords. Now, swords is the air element, so we're talking our intellect, we're talking intuition sometimes, patterns, intuition also with fire. But you're talking about communication, anything to do with the god Mercury, or the mercurial influence, so interactions and communications and all of that. Let's see, I don't know what just came up there. But 7 is about balance. It's also about spirituality and magic and all of that. But it's a lot about letting things settle out. If you think the 7, think the scales, and let them come to their resting point before, it's like you can, on a 7 energy day, you can step back and be the observer in the day and let things settle out before reacting. So that's kind of like the 7. But here, you see the line of demarcation here. So this is now, that was then. Now, either this guy was there with the troops, with the king's troops. You see some of them over here. And here they are in their tents. They've left their swords out. Now, if you think in terms of this and the air element in terms of strategy, then you're looking at, they left all of their battle plans out. Now, the town itself, if this is back in medieval times when the king's men were out and, pillaging and all of that, the towns, and trying to take over different things, different areas, then what you may have here is someone from the town has been in there, maybe providing the food and the drink and all of that, while they relax after their maybe they're getting ready to attack the town. But because the town is so much smaller and has so much less power, the town has to then come up and figure out, okay, how are we going to find out what they're going to do to us so that they can then level the playing field. All right. So think about this in terms of that. There could be things coming at you that maybe there's some deception going on, where somebody's trying to gain power and control over you, and you now have to figure out a way to come up with some kind of strategy so you can level the playing field, so that you have some kind of way of responding, because clearly you don't have enough. You don't have enough to contend with what's about to hit you. And so you have to figure out, what is their battle plan? What's really going on here? And so in this case, whatever you can do, go behind the scenes, do whatever. In fact, there's one day this next week where I'm recommending that you do this. And I don't remember which day it was, but you may actually have to go and talk to somebody behind the scenes to try to get some extra information to give you an advantage that you don't currently have. It's really an awful feeling when you know something is happening to you. I've had this happen. So is my husband, where we know something's happening, but the people that are doing it are playing it close to the vest, and so they don't let on what's going on. And then eventually, they dump it in your lap. It's like, what I think that we're trying to do here is figure out what that is beforehand. So in a sense, when you're talking about the devil card and being a slave to ego, clearly somebody here in this card is being a slave to ego. And all these other people are trying to do is to try to gain some advantage here, to take that advantage, that ego advantage away from the king and his men. I think we're going to need one more card. But basically, you know, we're talking about how to deal with ego. And when you're talking about a kingdom with the 7, that's where your source of ego is. When authority runs amok and starts doing, I mean, think what's happening with our voting rights around the country in the red states. You have a perfect example here of that. You know, where the state itself has decided, oh, you know, we don't want Democrats to win, so we're going to impact the minority vote because minorities typically vote Democratic. So we're just going to make sure that the minority people do not vote. Yeah. We're going to make it really hard for them. We're going to take away souls to the polls on Sunday. We're going to make it, Georgia made it illegal for you to give somebody a drink of water if they're standing in line. Oh my God. Okay. So there you see where now, you know, people are having to re-strategize. The lawsuits are going to happen. This is all going to get overturned, at least it better, because this is not democracy, and this is not how our Constitution is written. So hopefully that will happen, but it's going to take its time to get up to the Supreme Court, where it will likely be decided, right? So again, you know, slave to the ego and slave to their own agenda, and doing everything in everything possible to humiliate themselves in the process. Because eventually, you know, this is all going to stop, and they're going to have to account for it. There will be a reckoning for what these people are trying to do to the rest of us. I've been in that situation before. And, you know, you kind of stand there and you're going, okay, something's happening here, and we need to find out what this is. Because if we don't stop it, really bad things are going to happen, you know. And it's not a fun place to be. You know, you can see it in the workplace. You can see it all kinds of places where you've got maybe one group of people that want to have, you know, the accolades for something. And so they do something to the rest of them that are part of a project to make it look like they didn't help or something, right? So it's just the way of things at times, and it shouldn't be, but that's what we need to do with the 7. We need to bring things to balance. We need to ascertain what's really going on, and maybe this fourth card will give us an insight. So I'll take the 13th one. Well, we have the 10 of Swords. See, this is a strategy that basically is undercutting our peace and security based on the devil or the ego within. Egos are running amok, and so we have to do something. We have to let that settle out. Otherwise, we're going to end up turning our back to all of our responsibilities and all of the shared tradition that we have, the shared experience that we have. So I mean, if you want to look at this in terms of the country, we can look at it that way. But if not, you need to check in and make sure. If something doesn't feel right to you today, check in and make sure that you know and that everything is in its place. So there's not something behind the scenes happening, some strategy that's going to be applied against you. If you feel like something doesn't feel right, then that could be the area you need to look in today. Because what we have here, the 10 of Swords, it just shows we've gone as far as we can go with perceptions, and that the perceptions are killing us, basically. They're preventing us from moving forward. They're preventing us from understanding anything that's going on. But here you see the night is lifting and the sun is coming back, even though you don't see it. You see the light is returning, the emotions have settled, the water is smooth and glassy. Now, you see a line of demarcation here at the mountains, between the water and the mountains, there's a black line there. So we know that there's challenges ahead, but at least if we can let go of perceptions that no longer serve, or belief structures that no longer serve, we may be able to see the light, which is Kenaz. All right. In other words, there's some ego things going on today that we need to awaken to. Now, if it's our own, then we need to awaken to that and let go of the perceptions that are affecting things in a way that are not helpful to other people. Otherwise, this just keeps coming back to this being in preservation of that, of a level of security for just a small number of people, that they want. And again, it just reminds me of what some states are trying to do right now with respect to suppressing voter rights, and suppressing the vote, just so they can win next time. In other words, if your message isn't, or your agenda, your platform, whatever you want to call it politically, if it's not enough to make you win, then go look at your platform. But don't do it by suppressing people's ability to vote. See, that's the insurrection is not over, folks. It started the whole last 4 years, culminated on January 6th, but that was just a pivot point. Now you're going to see the real suppression of people in this country when it comes to the voter rights. That's where you're really going to see it. And whether or not, the stacking of the court that took place, how much of that's going to protect all of that for them we're going to see going forward. Hopefully the Supreme Court has not been so stacked against what they are tasked to do. In other words, if they rule according to their heart, if they rule according to their own personal beliefs and not according to the Constitution, we have a problem, right? We have a problem, and those people need to go, and that's going to be difficult to do. So we may be in a weird place for a while where people's rights are being affected in ways that we've never seen before. Or at least not for a very long time. We resolved all of this, right? But now, see, the power structure is shifting again. And because the other side, the Republicans, don't have anything worth looking at, the only way they can do this now is this way, is by affecting the vote. They tried it with gerrymandering, with redistricting. They tried it with any way they could to keep them in power. That's why they don't want to see the Electoral College go. But the Electoral College is outdated. It's not needed now. We need to be a majority rule country. That's what we are. And we should be with the presidential election as well. So again, though, we cannot have one side, one half of the country, if you will, try to make that happen in a way that's basically deceptive. Okay, that's stacking the deck. They don't have anything, so they have to stack the deck in order to express themselves, in order to win. You see, some of it happened through threats and intimidation and all of this stuff. Okay, we can't have that. That cannot be, right? Our vote's sacred. It can't be something that is messed with. Simply because one side can't win anymore because they've got nothing, right? When you're the party that only wants to keep the rich richer, and you don't care about anyone else, eventually your time's going to come up, right? It's going to run out for you. It is not going to be enough. People eventually are going to wise up. And that's where we are now. We're wising up. And I don't see how this will happen, but it may. So we'll see. But again, we're looking at perceptions that no longer serve whichever side. Right? We can't accept this as a given any more than that side can accept it as a given. So whether this is the vote or this happening collectively to us, or whether this is something in your personal life, maybe at work, where something is happening behind the scenes to upend whatever security you have, whatever you've done that's been positive and productive and contributed to the outcome of something, maybe that's being suppressed and only certain people want the accolades. But the bottom line is, whose comfort level gets preserved here? The ones that actually worked or the ones that didn't and just expect it to be handed to them? You see, that's what we have right now with respect to the vote, and it may be what's happening somewhere in your life, where the ego has just run amok, and that's all that's really controlling the situation at this point. So level the playing field, get the information you need, let go of perceptions that no longer serve you. Understand that this could be not you, but other people that are trying to disempower you. So you need to level the playing field, whichever way this thing goes, right? But it's not about her security, it's about yours. So anyway, I think that's it. We'll see where this goes on Thursday. Hopefully it gets resolved today or before we reach Thursday and we're not still dealing with it. Well, if it's the vote, we will. But if it's on a personal level, maybe this will shift to something else. But in any event, that's it, I guess. Again, check out the Esoteric Influences. If you haven't seen them yet, they're over on the blog at imsteppingaside.com. Let's see, I do write over on Medium, so there'll be a daily astrology that goes up there today. Magical Focus goes up on Patreon, so if you want to look at that. Magical Forecast goes up on the blog. A little bit play on words there. And that goes up on the blog here today as well. So check that out. That's a little bit more, it's magic oriented, but yet lots of aspects, lots of planetary aspects and stuff in place. You can look at them there. The effect of Lilith, the nodes, the rays, all of that is in there. So check that out over there on the blog. So I guess that's it. I guess we'll see you Thursday. So thanks so much for stopping by. Do click subscribe. I'd love you to do that. And come back and wear a mask if you go out around anyone at all. Even if you've had your shots, we've had our first. We're still wearing masks because that's what the CDC wants us to do. And be good to yourself. Be good to one another. And blessed be.